Geetha sadhana soapaana. We have been seeing, we will continue this today with the examination of Karma Yoga. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Examination of Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? How is it? What is its actual form? The identification of the word yoga with actionlessness, Naishkarmya, may incite the ire of the champions of Karma Yoga. In modern times, it is difficult to think of an equal to Lokamanya Tilak among the votaries of this view that yoga only refers to Karma Yoga, understood as desireless action. He was a towering genius, and his unmatched all round scholarship could readily produce plenty of scriptural authority to back up his arguments. Therefore, in places where we reject his views, we do so without forfeiting our intense and great respect for him. He also has admitted that he was seeing more clearly than the earlier commentators, over whose shoulders he was standing. It is therefore with all humility that we are stating that his arguments appear to us to suffer from a primary defect. His inability to appreciate correctly the meaning of the terms knowledge and renunciation, as taught in the Geetha. This fact becomes all the more obvious by observing his relentless preoccupation with attacking the idea of renunciation and even the concept of devotion. Therefore, it may be worthwhile at this point to briefly examine the correct import of the term Karma Yoga, as taught in the Gita, although a more detailed discussion will follow as the text progresses. For understanding the relation of Karma Yoga to Yoga, as discussed above, we do not have to strain ourselves to seek any other authority, inasmuch as the Gita itself provides the answer. The Lord has dismissed a person as a hypocrite who has renounced actions externally but is still wrapped up in them mentally. In them. As opposed to this, the Lord instructs us that whoever controlling the senses through the mind, so that the mind does not become subservient to their propensities, performs karma yoga, is eminent, he excels. In this context, the particular elements that stand out clearly can be stated as follows. First, all the senses should be brought completely under control, and the desire to seek happiness in the sense objects must cease. Secondly, the mind should be completely detached from the functions of the senses, which continue to engage themselves in actions. And finally, we must develop a total lack of attachment to the action at all of its stages. It should be noticed that the stress here is on yoga, the karma being performed in such a way that it becomes an aid for uniting the practitioner with the Lord and not for taking the person away from him. What therefore is opposed to karma yoga is not karma sannyasa, the abandonment of actions, as both will lead to the same goal, as the Lord has assured Arjuna. This would be a contradictory instruction if they were in fact opposed to each other. The Lord states that the opinion that they are opposed to each other is the opinion of ignorant people. But passivity, as we have been told, is the gateway to and the hallmark of tamas, ignorance and laziness. And such passivity is opposed to karma sannyasa as well as karma yoga. All this discussion concerning the correct way to perform action, needless to say, belongs to the category of all those still in the grip of ignorance. It has to be made abundantly clear that the jnani, the wise man, has no karmas at all, even while it is the body, etc., which are seen by the others still in ignorance, that continues to act. And the body, senses, and mind that is attributed to the jnani continues to perform all karmas in an ideal fashion and as example for others, in that his previous efforts to purify himself have now become an irresistible, effortless habit. Not only does this way of understanding the true nature of a wise man not go against Lord's teachings in fact supports it and harmonizes the text in a way that other perspectives do not. While before the advent of knowledge, the Jnani was aware that he was in the body and that he was instrumental in performing karmas, all the while making an effort to perform them without any attachment. After knowledge, jnana, the detachment is complete and effortless. In the same fashion as the life functions, such as the breathing and circulating the blood, can continue during the state of deep sleep, and the sleeping person is totally unaware of them. The obligatory duties are being done in a perfect fashion without desire for or hatred, ragadvesha, by the collection of the body, senses, etc., in accordance with scriptural injunctions, while the wise man himself is completely unaware of them. Much has been made of the objection that if a jnani has no karma or obligatory duties to perform, instead of becoming a model for others to follow, he will set a bad example for people and inspire them to also give up their duties. This would be against the very injunction of the Lord contained in the third chapter, where he tells us that actions must be performed. The fact that the wise man has undergone the abandonment of all actions, sarva karma sannyasa, would go against the scriptural injunction. As long as living, he should do the agnihotra, fire sacrifice. As long as a person is entitled for karma and is able to perform it, he cannot give up the obligatory duties. If physical disability prevents him from engaging himself in these duties, it is permissible that he casts them away. This is the only condition under which suicide would be seen as acceptable and in accordance with scriptural teaching. Since he has lost all obligations regarding dharma and adharma, he would not be abiding by the requirements such as maintaining the sacrificial fire, wearing a sacred tuft of hair, and wearing the sacred thread. In short, if you say a jnani is above all scriptural rules, then if he behaves at all, he would behave like a madman, ignoring all scriptural and societal rules, or he may just remain inactive like a stone. Obviously, this cannot be a description of a wise man, a jnani. In contradiction, in contradistinction, a person is extolled as a sannyasi and a yogi who performs karma as a duty, not depending on its fruits, but definitely not one who has merely cast off karma either as a result of laziness or for fear of bodily exertion. Nor does he become a yogi merely by giving up duties and remaining inactive. This type of casting off of karma will not lead to actionlessness, nishkarmya, nor will merely abandoning karma lead to siddhi, to perfection of yoga. Hence, the objection is against inaction or failure in duty, which is either tamasic or rajasic, which will in no way contribute to yoga or jnana knowledge. This is opposed to the sattvic renunciation of actions, wherein the action is performed but with no attachment. So, what is opposed is not karma yoga and karma sannyasa, but rather karma yoga and tamasic or rajasic renunciation of actions. This raises the question as to what really constitutes renunciation, sannyasa, and knowledge, jnana. To understand these terms properly, an examination becomes essential as to how karma or actions, scriptural or worldly, comes into effect. The Lord leaves no one in doubt regarding the complete absence of agency for any action in self. The Lord says, whoever sees the self as the doer is a person whose mind is wrapped because of not having performed good deeds. He also says, he alone sees who sees on all sides action solely performed by nature and sees also the self as a non performer. Similarly, he states, whoever considers himself as an agent of karma, kartra, is also deluded by the ego sense. Since ahankara, it is only the three gunas, the qualities of nature, in the form of the sense organs that function in the corresponding gunas outside in the form of objects. As a result, it is only when a person, not knowing his real nature, falsely identifies himself with the gunas or prakriti that he appears as an agent. This also includes the false identification with all the limiting adjuncts of the body, senses, mind, intellect, and ego, which are merely the products of previous actions. When falsely identifying with these, we seemingly take upon ourselves the burden of action, which actually is existing in nature, Prakriti alone. Since such a confusion between what one's nature really is and what one has accepted oneself to be can arise only due to a lack of discriminative, correct knowledge of one's own self or true nature. It stands to reason that the correct knowledge actually means being in one's own self, bereft of knower, knowing known, and not literally knowing something. Because no action is possible except when in association with nature, Prakriti. Without falsely identifying with the Prakriti, the self or Atman cannot act and cannot know anything and will merely remain as he is, the non dual reality. This is the ideal sannyasa taught by the Geetha, and that state has been described as the ultimate good, Nishrayasa. This state, it is necessary to remember, is not the sannyasa adopted at the last stage of life, nor does it refer to the stage of life resorted to by those disinterested in worldly life, refusing to get into the trammels of the householder's duties. Since this type of formal sannyasa, renunciation, aims at achieving the ultimate sannyasa, it is described as Vividisha sannyasa, adopting the life of a formal renunciate with the desire to attain knowledge. This understanding that the wise man is the one who does nothing, sees nothing, and knows nothing, and that anyone who does something, sees something, or knows something is not a wise man may seem quite foreign to most students of the Gita and will require some reflection and further clarification so as to fully appreciate this rather unique and profound perspective. A cursory understanding of such an ideal state in which all duality has ceased may give the impression that a wise man remains like a stone, or that he even ceases to exist, since nature, Prakriti being absent, its effects like the body, senses, mind, intellect, ego, etc., will also have to disappear, and the bodily functions cannot go on. A corollary of this will be that there can be no jnani alive, and so no one will be left to teach the knowledge of Atman. It is obvious that this conclusion will contradict verse 34 of chapter 4, Bhagavad Gita, in which the Lord has assured us that the knowers of Atman, as he really is, will teach a sincere seeker. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Obviously, this doubt and all of its offshoots can arise only when there is an intermixing of the self and nature. All transactions, including teaching and learning, lie in the field of Prakriti, of which only a person who lacks the knowledge of Atman can be aware, thus leading to a mutual mixing up of one with the other. The aggregate or collection of body, senses, etc., which are the effects of Prakriti, has been created as a result of the karmas of previous births, and since with this present birth, those results have already begun to function, they must play out. That is called prarabdha. These activities that are now going on in our present birth are termed our prarabdha karma, meaning well begun. Prakrishtena arabdha, well begun, already come about, and there is absolutely no way that we can change it. There is no way to change it. It cannot be prevented and can only waste itself through its enjoyment. It should be enjoyed only, it should be experienced only. Prarabdha karma. As the arrow already shot has to die only after hitting the target. The arrow already shot from the bow has to reach the target and hit. It won't stop in between. The same way Prarabdha karma also should be experienced, either happiness or sorrow. But the awareness of the Prarabdha or any conceptual knowledge for that matter can be only in ignorant persons who are associated with the Prakriti. It is also only the ignorant people who can identify their jnani with the collection of bodies, senses, etc., in which he attained knowledge, while the jnani himself is aware of neither the body, etc., nor the act of seeing it, nor its absence. An illustration based on a common fact of daily experience will help bring out this subtle point more clearly. A waking person is aware of the body, etc., of someone who is in deep sleep, and he identifies the life functions which are going on in the body with the self of the sleeping person. The actual experience of the sleeping person is that he is aware of neither his body nor that of the one seeing his body. While the onlookers in the waking state may impute the functions of the body to the person sleeping, but for the sleeper himself, he is blissfully unaware of the fact that those functions are even in progress. Similarly, when the ideal sannyasi is referred to from the point of view of knowledge, just like the experience of the sleeping person in the illustration, in that experience of Atman, when all external awareness is absolutely absent, including the awareness that he is not aware of anything, then he is merely remaining in his true nature. How can any transaction be possible in that state? On the contrary, the body, etc., which the jnani was associated with before attaining knowledge, jnana, will continue to exist and function as long as its prarabdha lasts, and which are seen by the ignorant and whom they identify as the jnani, the wise man. They identify that body as jnani, but actually the jnani is inside the body. For the attainment of knowledge, jnana, the aspirant would be continuously performing his duties according to scriptural injunctions in the correct manner and without any attachment in order to get mental purification. And since such an attitude at some point had become an effortless habit with him, so that after jnana, the body, etc., will function naturally and ideally by the force of that acquired habit. In other words, what practices that were being done before with some effort are now going on effortlessly. In fact, more than a habit which can at some point be given up, this type of effortlessness is without choice, in that it has become his very nature. A beautiful consequence of this is that the aggregate of body, etc., with which the jnani is associated with or associated by the ignorant will behave in an ideal manner, free from all attachment and misconduct, thus providing a perfect model for the rest of the people, a state referred to in the Geetha as Loka Sangraha, benefiting the world. Loka Sangraha, benefiting the world, is not an effort on the part of the jnani to make the world better or looking out for the world's good. It is just that his example itself is what is known as the benefit to the world, Loka Sangraha. It is in this context that the example of Janaka and others has been cited in the Geetha. Even this statement, it must be noted, is from the point of view of the ignorant, since there is no such thing as a righteous or wrong attitude for a jnani, who, being established in Atman, is free from all duality and the pairs of opposites, Dvandvatita. The aggregate of body, etc., continues to do the correct karmas with the correct attitude because of the past habits, while the jnani himself is unaware that the karma is going on. He has no awareness or concern that his actions are helping others, or that he is model to be followed so that others may stay on the right path. Regarding the scriptural evidence for this idea regarding the wise man, we may briefly cite two verses for reflection from the Upanishads. But when to him all has become the self alone, what will he see? And with what? What will he hear? And with what? And what will he know? And with what? Which clearly shows the wise man does not know anything including karmas. And the knower of Brahman is Brahman alone, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Which clearly states that the wise man is the non-dual Brahman in which there are no distinctions such as the knower, the knowing, or the known. As this teaching is not easily grasped, we repeat, the real wise man, the jnani, is not consciousness of the aggregate sanghata of the body, mind, or ego at all. Even though the body and senses are seeing differentiated objects of differing gunas, to the jnani there is only the universal self, Atman, and in spite of all the forms that the body and the senses perceive, the jnani remains as the unblemished Brahman. The Lord says, all his karmas have been burnt by the fire of knowledge. Jnanagnina dagdhaha, dagdha karmanaha, jnanagni dagdha karmanaha. Thus, for the jnani, the natural tendency for actions to sprout into fruits has been destroyed. In this light, the statement of the Supreme Wise Man, the Lord Himself, becomes clear when He says that in spite of having created the social order based on birth and work, He should not be considered as its creator. That task has been accomplished by an assumed body while He remains in His pristine purity of oneness, neither the creator nor the experiencer. The beauty of this viewpoint is that whoever makes an effort to perform karma in this way, just as the Lord does, that karma or action becomes no karma, no action, and will not become a cause for rebirth. That is, kartutva rahita, doership is not there, enjoyership is not there. Then, if one does karma like that, it will not be a karma, it will not give any fruits, causing rebirth. So, no rebirth. So, that's the thing. Next, 1.10, we shall see in the next session the import of Geetha. That we shall see in the next session. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Sadguru Charanarpita Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sajjana Santu Nirbhayaha Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. करचरणकृतं वाक् कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वापराधं विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतत्क्षमस्व शिव शिव करुणाब्धे हे महादेव शम्भो